1688 DC. Gavin Lindsay versus Lindy Arzola Velez. Attorney Jennifer Reed represents plaintiff and attorney Renee Gillum, defendant.
Okay, go ahead.
The parties in this matter are the parents to Mara, who is 3 years old, and they entered into a consent order that was issued in Colorado in 2021. At the time that that order was issued, the parties had reconciled and were living together. Since that order was issued, the parties had moved to Missouri and then had separated in December of 2021. When the parties separated, the plaintiff moved to Michigan with his family, and the defendant remained in Missouri. Since the plaintiff has moved to Michigan, the child primarily resided with plaintiff for the majority of last year until the temporary order was issued in late fall of last year, making it so that the parties shared equal custody of Mara and exercising parenting time alternating 2 weeks. And so my client is requesting modification of the Colorado order, taking into consideration the defendant's work schedule as she is in the military and works on a cycle, as well as the distance between the parties, as well as the child's age.
Okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Gillum, do you wish to make an opening statement, reserve your opening statement, or waive your opening statement?
Can we reserve our opening statement, Your Honor?
You can
I'd like
reserve.
to call
Yeah.
Gavin Lindsay.
Okay.
Your Honor,
Mr.
I would just
Whitten?
make a, I'm sorry, before we start, can I just move to sequester witnesses?
Ms. Reed, any response on that?
No objection.
Okay. Court will sequester witnesses and explain should witnesses be viewing this by YouTube or some other means that they are not to, again, observe these until such time as they are called. And then thereafter, they would be allowed to. But again, if the court finds that they have, in fact, observed, that would be a basis to hold them in contempt of court or to bar their testimony, as the case may be, if the court should find out that they did violate the sequestration orders. So just for purposes of the record, we'll make that.
And you share one child with the defendant in this matter?
I do.
And who is that?
Her name is Mora.
And how old is she?
She is 2, about to be 3.
Okay, and what was the originating order in your case?
So the original order was I would have her for 3 days, including overnights and 1 weekend day. And then her mom would obviously have her the other 4 days. Do you want me to include like child support and everything?
Yes.
So I was to pay the daycare at the time was $404 per month. In the order, it said that there was that it wasn't allowed to go above 500, so 404 to 500 per month paid directly to the daycare. Like I said, 3 days a week, including 1 weekend day overnight visits when her mom was done breastfeeding.
And then did you share joint legal custody?
Yes,
Okay, and when was that order entered?
it was February 18th of 2020.
And where were you living at that time?
I was living February 18th, 2021. Lindy and I were living together.
And where were you?
In an apartment in Colorado Springs.
Okay. When did you move to Missouri?
It was, I believe, beginning of September of 2021.
And why did you move?
A couple reasons. So I got out of the Army and she was reassigned to, she came down on a drill sergeant assignment
Okay. And why did you get out of the Army?
to take care of our daughter.
Was that something that you and the defendant discussed?
Yes,
And that was an agreement that you reached?
yes, yeah. It
Okay.
works better if I got out
Why did it work better?
because she was a little further along in her career. She had a little bit more going for her than I did. I was a grunt.
Okay. How long did you live together in Missouri?
We lived together from early September to about mid-January of 2022.
Okay. And during that time in both Colorado and Missouri, were there periods where you would watch Mara and Miss Arzola Velez wouldn't be there?
Yes.
How often was that?
Whenever she had training, a big one was when she went to drill sergeant school. I think that was probably 4 to 8 weeks, I believe. I'm not sure exactly the length of time that school lasted, but I had her solo for that whole time. often during the day, she would have to go do something, especially when we were in Missouri. She would have, she would work pretty much all day and halfway into the night, and I would obviously take care of our daughter while she was working.
Do you recall when drill school was?
Not for sure. I know that it was before September of 2021. As far as like a month, I am not super sure.
Okay. When you guys were living together, did your family come and visit you?
A few times, yes.
Okay, did Miss Arzola Velez's family come and visit?
Uh, yes, her grandpa came and her dad came once.
Okay. And when did you separate?
When I actually moved out,
Yes.
January 14th of 2022.
Okay, and when did you move?
Where did I move?
Yes.
I moved to Michigan.
Okay,
Oh, I didn't hear that, sorry.
you said you moved to Michigan.
Okay.
And did you move into a house or an apartment?
A house.
Okay, and does anyone live with you?
Yes.
Okay, and when you moved to Michigan in January last year, what did you guys do for parenting time?
So it was agreed to before I left that I would have her during Lindy's training cycles, and then she would get her on her rest cycles, which were training cycles were typically 10 weeks. Rest cycles were typically 2 weeks, so it would be like a 10 and 2 rotation.
Okay. So in January, did the defendant have any parenting time?
No, other than after we left on 14th. No.
Okay. In February of 2022, did the defendant have any parenting time?
No.
And in March of 2022, did she have any parenting time?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of parenting time did she have?
She came to Michigan and got her for about 3 weeks.
And that's when she was on her off cycle?
Yes.
And in January, February, and March, were you facilitating phone calls during that time?
Yes.
Were you doing video calls during that time?
Yes.
Okay. Were you sharing pictures of Mara with her during that time?
Yes.
Okay. In April of 2022, what did parenting time look like?
I actually took Maura down to Missouri in April. I believe the 8th was on like a Friday or Saturday. We took a weekend, and because April 8th is her birthday. So I took the weekend off, drove down to Missouri with our daughter, spent the weekend with Lindy and our daughter to celebrate her birthday. And that was the only parenting time that she got in April.
And was she on cycle during that time?
I believe so.
In May, what was parenting time?
May, for Mother's Day, I brought her down to Missouri, took a 3-day weekend. And that was the only parenting time in May.
Was there any parenting time in June?
No.
Okay. Did you contact the defendant in May or June regarding any changes to your agreement?
Yes.
What was the discussion about?
So the discussion, I believe it was towards the end of May, possibly beginning of June, was so she had a 3-month cycle break that was coming up, and at this time I hadn't seen any sort of support from her, like no financial help or anything, and I was worried that possibly she would, if she came and got our daughter, that I would see her for a while. So I told her that we're going back to court and that I wasn't comfortable with our daughter leaving until there was a temporary order in place.
Okay, and did you discuss parenting time while there was a temporary order or while the temporary order was pending?
This past temporary order?
No. When in June or July, when you're saying you were not comfortable
Okay.
letting her go down to Missouri without a modification of the order, were you talking about what parenting time was going to be until that modification?
No.
Okay.
No.
During that time, did the defendant come up to Michigan for parenting time?
She did not.
Did she call and ask you for parenting time?
She did not.
Did she text you requesting parenting time?
No.
And this is starting in June?
Yes.
Do you remember what the last contact you had with her in June?
I believe it was that phone call where I told her that I wasn't comfortable with our daughter leaving the state.
Okay, what made you so uncomfortable?
Um, there's been times that I haven't, like right when our daughter was born, I had no clue that she was born until a week after. And I didn't know where Lindy lived. She's kind of a flight risk, I think.
What makes you think that she's a flight risk?
Because there's been periods of time that I haven't been able to get a hold of her, haven't been able to reach her, didn't know where she was at. I was just scared that that would happen again.
How long was that period of time where you couldn't get a hold of her?
It was like the first 8 months of my daughter's life.
Okay, and did you try to reach out to her in that first 8 months?
I did, yes. I started the court stuff as soon as I found out my daughter was born, and it took that 8 months for us to end up getting together, and so I could see her.
Okay. During June, was the defendant ever blocked on your phone?
No, no,
Okay.
I've never blocked her.
Did you threaten to call the police if she came to Michigan?
No,
Okay. Were you sending pictures in June?
yes, I sent a few pictures. Yes.
Okay. Did you ever get a response from your text messages sending pictures?
No.
Did you send any letters?
I believe I did send letters to you. Yes.
Okay. What was the contents of the letters?
It was just updating her on what was going on, kind of sharing some personal things. Nothing out of the ordinary, I don't think.
Okay, so the last communication you had with the defendant was in June.
I believe so, yes.
When was the next time the defendant reached out to you for video calls or phone calls to see or talk to Mara?
She never reached out to me until the judge ordered the phone calls.
And when was that?
I believe it was November, December of last year.
Okay.
I believe, I'm not sure.
And do you believe it's important for Mara to have a relationship with her mom?
Yes,
Are you willing to facilitate that relationship with her mom?
yes.
What do you do to facilitate that relationship?
I think it's kind of obvious. A couple of trips down to Missouri, that's an 8.5 hour drive one way.
How much was that? How was the drive?
It was about 8.5 hours, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
I think that speaks, for itself. I'm willing to do just about anything to make sure that my daughter has a good relationship with him.
Okay. And you said you exchange, or the drive down there is about 8.5 hours, right?
Correct.
Where you're exchanging right now?
We are exchanging in Lincoln, Illinois.
Okay, and about how far away from your house is Lincoln, Illinois?
Depending on traffic in Chicago, it can be anywhere from 4.5 to 5 hours.
Okay, and what days are you exchanging?
Sundays.
Did you guys have any sort of agreement changing it from Sundays?
Yes, yeah, we did. For I believe we probably did 4 exchanges alternating Saturdays and Sundays.
And why did you do that?
Her and I agreed to it.
And was that working?
It was. As far as the scheduling goes, it was. A little while into it, I started looking at the calendar and I realized that I was getting one less day with her, and that didn't make sense to me. So I was like, hey, I wouldn't like to continue doing this. So then we just went back to Sunday.
And why were you getting one less day?
Because my exchange date would fall on a Saturday, so I would drop her off to her mom on a Saturday, and then when I would go pick her up from her mom, it would be on a Sunday.
Okay. Is there any issues with exchanges?
Not so far, no.
Okay. Are there any issues with the exchange times?
Yes.
What's the issue?
It's, in my opinion, too late in the day. I don't get home till usually after 11 o'clock.
And then how many hours are you driving on exchange days?
On exchange days, anywhere from 9 to, I believe I've been on the road for 10.5 hours.
Okay, that's going back and forth?
Correct. Yep, both ways.
Okay, and you said you don't get home until what time?
Usually after 11.
And when is Mara's bedtime?
I like to have her in bed by 9:30.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that?
I like to have her in bed by 9:30.
Are you requesting any modifications of the exchange day or time?
Yes.
What would you request?
I would request that the day would be changed to Saturday and the time would be changed to somewhere in the afternoon, closer to the middle of the day.
Okay. Are you requesting any changes in the exchange location?
Yes. I would like to find a more halfway point. I think I drive a little bit more on my end.
Okay. Do you know where that halfway point would be?
I do not right now.
Okay.
I do not know the defendant's address.
How is Mara doing with the travel?
She is very good. She's getting better.
Okay. What do you mean by getting better?
At first it was a little rough, like with the restlessness and everything, but she's good now.
Okay. And do you encourage Mara to be excited when she goes to see her mom?
Yes.
What do you do?
I just ask her questions about, what she's gonna do with mommy, and ask her if she's excited to see mommy, and, stuff like that. Excited to see the dog that they have.
Okay. And do you believe that the defendant's willing to facilitate a close relationship between you and your daughter?
I don't believe so.
And why?
I believe that she holds a lot of spite and anger towards me, and I think that clouds her judgment.
Okay. Are you requesting any change regarding parenting time from the temporary order?
Yes.
What are you requesting?
I think that so right now we make the trip roughly 26 times a year. And that's a lot of driving for us and for the child. And I think that 3-week rotations, I think that would be a little more beneficial.
Okay.
And then, are you talking about temporarily or permanent?
Permanent.
Permanently. So through the 3-week rotations, I think is fair. And then I'd like to have her when she starts school.
Do you know when she would start school?
She would start school roughly 2 years.
Okay. And why would you like her to primarily reside with you when she starts school?
I think that the environment here is much more stable than she has with her mother,
What makes you think that?
because we're surrounded by loving family and friends, and we aren't going anywhere.
Are you concerned that the defendant might be moving?
Yes,
Why?
the military, I know how it works, and you never spend more than 2 or 3 years in the same spot.
Can you describe your relationship with Mara?
I think it's a good relationship. She knows to come to me when she needs help with something. She comes to me when she's looking for some love. But I think there's it's hard to explain. I think that there's a line that she knows not to cross as far as disrespect and stuff like that. I do love her with all my heart.
What kind of activities do you share with Mara?
Oh man, we do everything together. She's been out in the garage with me fixing stuff. We go to the arcade. I have a good friend of mine is a manager at a local arcade. We go there quite often. We just went to a hockey game. We go outside. There's a park at the church right down the road from our house. We go there probably 2-3 times a week. Other than that, most of the time we're just relaxing and snuggling.
Okay. And how do you discipline Mara?
I start out with a firmer voice. If that doesn't get her attention, usually I'll take away whatever she's, whatever it is that's distracting her. And honestly, those things work for me.
Okay, you said that you've taught her like there's a line of disrespect that she doesn't cross. Are you teaching her manners?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of manners are you teaching her?
Please, thank you, no thank you. Just the basics, every respectful kid should have.
Okay. And do you have any religious beliefs or practices?
I do.
And what are those?
I am a Christian.
Okay. And do you go to church?
I
And
do.
does Mara go to church with you?
She does.
And when is that?
Every Sunday that she's here.
And what times on Sunday?
Service starts or worship starts.
Okay.
12:20 is the latest we've been.
Okay. Is that the church that you were talking about with the park slide?
No, different church.
Okay. And does she participate in any programs at church?
Yes, she's in Sunday school.
Okay. Do you purchase the items that Mara wants and needs?
I do.
Who arranges and takes her to doctor's appointments?
I do.
Okay. Has she gone into any dentist appointments?
Not here. With her mom, she did.
Okay. Is she overall a healthy child?
Yes, very.
Does she have any special needs?
No.
Are you currently working?
Yes,
And where are you working? And how
I
long
work
have you
here.
worked there?
I have worked there for, I believe, 9 months or so.
Okay. How many hours a week do you work?
40 to 45, depending on the Saturday schedule.
And what specific days do you work?
I work Monday through Friday.
Okay, and you said a Saturday schedule?
Mhm.
What's the Saturday schedule?
Off the top of my head, I don't know it for sure. It's printed out and I've submitted.
Is it every other Saturday? Is it, I said, like,
Roughly,
what?
roughly, 1 to 2 Saturdays per month, I would guess.
and does that rotate?
Yes,
And from what hours do you work Monday through Friday?
Monday through Friday, I work 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Okay, do you know what your rough grossly week take-home pay is?
Roughly $1,000, I believe.
Do you receive any payments from any profit sharing pensions or retirement funds?
No.
Are you currently receiving any military benefits?
Military benefits? No.
Okay, do you have any disability benefits?
No.
Do you receive any tips, gratuities, or any lottery winnings?
No.
Are you receiving any sort of unemployment benefits?
No.
Are you receiving any sort of public assistance like Medicaid or child care assistance?
No.
Do you have any uniform or licensing requirements?
No.
Do you provide health insurance for Mara?
I do not. No.
Does she have health insurance?
Yes.
What kind of health insurance is she on?
She is under her mom's TRICARE.
Do you have any child care expenses?
Yes.
And what are those?
Daycare, $225 per week.
And is that only on the weeks that you have her, or is it a flat fee for the month?
That is on the weeks that I have her. Yes.
What status do you claim when you file your taxes?
Single.
Do you support any other children other than Mara? Do you have any monthly expenses as a condition of your employment?
Other like tools and such?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Okay, what are your monthly expenses for tools?
I pay $50 to the Snap-on truck. I don't have any outstanding debt on any other trucks, but I just pay cash for tools.
And is it a recurring monthly expense or does it fluctuate?
It's $50 every month,
Okay,
or every week, I'm sorry,
every month,
every week.
every week for
Yep.
Snap.
So $200 per month, I'm sorry.
And then roughly per year, how much do you spend, excluding the Snap-on other tools?
Excluding Snap-on, I probably spend,
Aaron, I'm gonna object as to why it's relevant as to how much he's spending on tools.
Okay, Ms. Reed?
That are necessary for his job.
I don't understand what that has to do with child support.
It's an expense that's necessary as a condition of his employment, as I do believe that he works partly as a mechanic or a lube tech. He needs these tools to complete his job, and it's an expense that he's incurring in addition.
I don't believe the child support formula allows for these deductions for tools.
Okay, Ms. Reed, where does it provide in the support formula for purchase of tools?
The support formula takes into consideration other issues and such as licensing and other expenses as conditions of employment. I've seen uniform costs, licensing fees, and I do believe tools would fall under a necessary expense.
Okay, well, for purposes of this hearing, and I guess for future hearings, the court's not going to consider the purchase of tools. No different than the court would consider purchase of other items. They may obviously be utilized in this employment, may be necessary in employment. But again, it's a purchase of an asset as opposed to a formula, a uniform or something of that nature. So the court is not going to allow it, find that any further guest testimony is irrelevant.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Lindsay, do you live in a house or in a apartment?
I live in a house
Okay, and how long have you lived there?
over a year.
And how many bedrooms is the house?
And the house is 4 bedrooms.
And can you describe your housekeeping standards?
It's very clean.
Okay, and who lives with you?
My parents,
Okay,
mom and dad.
can you just explain the sleeping arrangements?
Yeah, so mom and dad sleep on the ground floor in their room, and then my daughter and I have rooms upstairs.
Okay, and Mara has her own room?
Correct.
I know she's a little one, but does she have any chores or responsibilities in the house?
She does. She is expected to pick up her toys when she's done playing with them.
Okay, and what is her bedtime routine?
Around usually around 8 o'clock. Give her a bath. Get her dried off. We'll usually relax until about 9:30, and then we'll head to bed.
And you had previously stated that you have a support system in Michigan, is that correct?
Yes, very, very large one.
And do you have any relatives that live nearby?
Yes, I do, very many.
Who are they?
Well, with how far is nearby?
Within about a half an hour, let's say.
Within about a half an hour, my whole immediate and extended family is within a half an hour.
Okay, but how many people is that?
I would guess probably 30.
Okay. And your family's willing to help support you raise your daughter?
Absolutely.
Okay. And do you have any concerns regarding the defendant's living environment?
Yes.
What are those concerns?
I have no clue where she lives. I have no clue how she lives. I have no clue who she lives with. I just don't know what's going on.
Okay. Does she share that information with you?
No,
Okay. Have you asked?
no,
Okay. Do you use any marijuana products?
no,
Do you consume any alcohol?
No.
Have you ever been ordered to participate in a substance abuse treatment program?
No.
Do you know if the defendant uses any marijuana products?
I do not know.
Do you know if she drinks alcohol?
She did when I was with her.
Okay, and how often would she drink?
Probably 2 to 3 times a month.
Okay. Do you know if she's ever been ordered to participate in a substance use treatment program?
I do not know.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor?
No.
A felony?
No.
Have you ever been the subject of a child investigative services proceeding?
No.
Any abuse or neglect cases?
No.
Okay. Are there any physical issues that affect your ability to be a parent?
No.
Are there any mental health issues that affect your ability to be a parent?
No.
Are you currently seeing any counselors?
No.
Okay. And who do you use for childcare?
I use her name is over 10 years.
And how far away is childcare facility from your house?
About 3 minutes down the road.
Okay, is it a facility or is it Gracie's house?
It's her house.
Okay. Do you have any contracts with Gracie?
No, I do not.
Okay. Have there been any instances of domestic violence in your relationship?
Between Lindy and I?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, when was that?
Around Thanksgiving time it was 2022. Oh, excuse me, 2021. Around Thanksgiving time, we were in Missouri. My parents and sister came over to our house, and there was an incident where I swept a couple pieces of popcorn underneath the refrigerator, and my sister and I were giggling about it, chuckling back and forth. I hadn't seen her for a long time, so we were kind of just being goofy. And the defendant thought that I was laughing at her, and she turned around and got really aggressive, started yelling in my face. She ended up hitting my hat off my head, and she pushed me.
Okay. And did you report that incident to the base authorities or any police?
I did not know.
Okay, and why not?
Didn't have any marks on my body. I didn't think it was necessary.
Were there any other instances of domestic violence in your relationship?
No.
Okay. Have you ever hit Lindy?
No.
Okay. To the best of your knowledge, there are no police reports regarding you and the defendant?
No.
Is there anything else you'd like the court to know?
I don't believe so, no.
I have no further questions at this time.
Okay, Ms. Gillum, any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor, just a little briefly.
Okay.
Mr. Lindsay, you mentioned that you weren't aware of when your daughter was born. Isn't that because you ceased communications with Lindy?
No.
No.
You
also mentioned.
Communication had been ceased, but it wasn't on my part.
Okay. So Lindy told you that she was pregnant, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And when Lindy told you she was pregnant, you indicated to her that you didn't want to have anything to do with the baby. Isn't that right?
No.
So you told her you wanted to be a part of the baby's life?
I was undecided.
So you didn't tell her that you would be willing to sign off on your rights to this baby?
No.
No, okay.
If I
So then-
did, it never went through. There are
I'm
no
sorry,
papers.
did you or
There are-
didn't you?
I did not say that I would do that.
Okay, so if you knew she was pregnant, did you support her during her pregnancy?
She cut off communication with me.
So does that mean you didn't have her phone number?
She would not reach out.
Did you try to reach out to her?
Yes.
Okay. So then how did you find out that she had the baby?
I don't know if I was blocked or what, but I got a text from her phone number with a picture of a little baby's face on it.
Isn't it true that the reason you found out is because Lindy actually was in communication with your parents and she told your parents that she was giving birth?
No,
No, okay. So did she move during this time or was she living at the same place?
Lindy,
Yeah,
considering the last I heard from her, she was in the barracks. And then when we actually started the court case, she was in an apartment. I assumed she moved. Yes.
okay. Now, did you at any point when you found out that she had given birth or prior to that, assist her with getting anything for the baby, like clothing or diapers or formula or anything that the baby needs?
There was no contact.
Was that because you didn't contact her?
No,
So are you saying you tried to contact her?
I didn't try to contact her.
Okay. So you didn't offer to help her take care of the baby?
There was a mutual, I shouldn't use the word mutual. It was neither of us contacted each other.
My question was, did you offer to help take care of the baby when you found out that she was born?
Absolutely. That's why I spent money on an attorney.
So did you give her any money to help support the baby or buy her anything?
No,
Okay.
my name was not on the birth certificate.
And okay. And what does your name on the birth certificate have to do with you assisting with supporting the baby?
Well, according to the El Paso County Court, my name wasn't on the birth certificate, therefore I didn't owe any back child support.
I didn't ask you about child support, sir. I asked you about helping support your child, meaning buying diapers and clothing and other things that your child may need.
I did that when I had a relationship with my daughter.
So you didn't do that until you said about when your daughter was 8 months old, is that right?
I wasn't allowed to see my daughter until she was 8 months old. Didn't even know what she looked like.
Well, is that because maybe you didn't reach out to Lindy like you just testified to?
We were going to court.
Okay, but you didn't reach out to her. You didn't ask for parenting time, right? You didn't ask to see your daughter at that point, is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I did.
Well, you just testified that there was no communication.
Of course I was trying to see my daughter. If I wasn't trying to see my daughter, I wouldn't have spent copious amounts of money on an attorney to see her.
Right. I understand that you've got an attorney. We're talking about you reaching out to her mother. And you testified that that wasn't done. Is that right?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So once you started going through the court process and you started seeing your daughter. Did you at that point start helping her with food and diapers and other items that she may need?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we lived together. We were making it work together.
Okay. Well, so when did you two start living back together?
It was kind of a transition of between December and January of 2000 and December 2020, January 2021.
Okay. Why did you two separate before?
She told me that she didn't want me around anymore.
And why?
it was shortly after she found out she was pregnant, so I don't know much about like the hormones and stuff, but I've heard that it happens.
So are you trying to say the reason why she broke up with you is because of her hormones?
I I don't know. I'm not trying to say anything. I don't know.
So are you saying you knew before you guys separated that she was pregnant?
E yes.
Okay. So did she tell you why she was breaking up with you?
No.
Okay. So she didn't say it had anything to do with how abusive you were?
I'm not abusive.
So she didn't tell you that you were abusive?
No.
Okay. And she didn't mention that it had anything at all to do with the fact that you tried to force her to have sex?
No.
Okay.
Never done that.
So that's not what she said.
I've never done that, so I I don't know.
I asked you if Lindy told you that was one of the reasons why you guys separated.
No.
Okay. You said you guys got back together in December, January, and you were living together. So you moved in with her, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And you guys were both in the military at that point?
Yes.
When did you get out of the military?
My final day on paper it was September 17th, but I took about a month of ETS leave, so I was out about a month before.
September 17th of what year?
2021.
Okay. And during that time, who was responsible for taking care of your daughter?
During what time?
During the time that you guys lived together up until you got out of the army?
Up until I get out,
Yeah.
we shared the responsibility fairly equally. There were times that I would have to go to the field and she'd have her, and there were times that she would have to go do some training and I would have her.
Okay. And about the times that you guys were there together, isn't it true that Lindy was the one that was primarily responsible for feeding your daughter?
For feeding her
Yeah.
when she was breastfeeding.
Well, breastfeeding, and she
I
was
would
also
assume
feeding supplemental, right? There were supplemental feedings, right?
not so much, not really that much.
No. Okay. Was she responsible for making her meals when she stopped breastfeeding?
We shared that responsibility.
Okay. So what about, would you say that she was responsible for getting up in the middle of the night with your daughter?
We shared that
So
responsibility.
that was equal, is what you're saying. All right. What about bathing? Did you share that responsibility too during that time?
Most of the time bathing was done with Lindy.
Mhm.
She would often just hop in the shower with her. She'd bring her in the shower with her.
Right. And what about putting her to bed? Would you say that was Lindy's responsibility?
When she was breastfeeding,
During the time that you guys lived together before you got out of the service?
I would say that we shared that responsibility.
What about the time during when she was breastfeeding? Would you say that was her responsibility then?
It was mostly, yes, because I obviously can't breastfeed a child.
Okay. And when did she stop breastfeeding?
It was around I believe the 10-month mark, roughly. I think that there was a period of time that she was kind of doing it, kind of not. I really am not sure.
So you're not sure. Okay.
It was shortly after we got back together.
Okay. And whose responsibility was it for taking care of the household when you guys were
What
in
time
Colorado?
frame? In Colorado?
Same time frame before you got out of the service.
It was a shared responsibility.
So you assisted with cleaning and cooking the house?
Shared responsibility until Lindy went to drill sergeant school. Then it was kind of all on me.
Isn't it true that you guys actually used to argue a lot because Lindy said you didn't help her take care of the house and didn't help her with the baby?
We did argue a lot, not for that reason though.
So what were you guys arguing about then?
We had a lot of difference in opinion. She grew up very differently than I did. Cultures are very different. I just don't think that we meshed well. We're both really, well, I shouldn't say really, but we're both stubborn. Yeah, we just don't get along.
What were you arguing about?
I, I couldn't give you any specifics.
So you don't recall why you guys argued?
I know that it wasn't over not sharing responsibility, because I certainly did that.
Okay. And when you guys moved to Missouri, did you have a job?
Right when we moved to Missouri,
When you moved to Missouri, did you have a job?
when we moved to Missouri, I did not have a job.
When did you get a job while you worked in Missouri?
I did. While I lived in Missouri, I did get a job.
When did you get a job?
I believe it was about 4 weeks after we moved, 4 to 6 weeks.
So you said you moved there in September, so you got a job in October?
I believe so. Around that time, yes.
Where were you working?
I was working at a Chevrolet dealership
Okay, and how long did you work there for?
from roughly October to January, like 14th. January 14th was a Friday, I think. I think that was my last day.
Okay, and so who was taking care of your daughter when you were at work?
When I was at work at the
Yes,
Chevrolet dealership in Missouri,
correct.
it was the daycare.
So your daughter was in daycare.
Correct.
Okay, so you didn't take care, you weren't sitting at home all day taking care of your daughter while Lindy was at work. Is that right?
In the span of time from mid-August to roughly when I got a job in October or around October, I was taking care of her all the time. I didn't have a job. I received a fairly large back pay, so we were living off of that. And I did have my daughter full time. I took her everywhere I went.
Wasn't Lindy off as well though during that time?
Not the whole time, no.
But she was off for a lot of that time, correct?
No,
No.
no.
So when was she off during that time?
She was off for probably the first, I think around 3 weeks or so while she was in processing. Yeah, I think it was around 3 weeks.
Okay. And so when she was in processing, so you said something about school. She was
I
in
don't
school,
remember saying anything about school.
some type of sergeant training or drill
Oh,
training.
drill sergeant school. She
Yeah.
attended that while we were living in Colorado.
That was in Colorado.
It
Okay.
was not in Colorado. She attended while we were living in Colorado. Yes. I'm not sure where the school itself was at.
Okay. Was that during that time frame between August and October?
Between August and October. No,
Was it before or after?
it was shortly before.
Okay. And then wasn't there a time period where when she was transitioning, because you guys got orders to move to Missouri, wasn't it like a month or so?
When she was transitioning.
Yeah,
what do
when you
mean?
two were transitioning from Colorado to Missouri.
So there was a time where I out-processed and she out-processed. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, there was a specific time. When did you guys leave Colorado?
I believe it was the first week of September. I believe we got to Missouri. It was rather quickly. I decided for sure that it was the smartest decision for me to get out. And it just so happened that the time I was supposed to get out was the time that she was supposed to be moving too. So it worked out pretty well.
Okay. And wasn't there a time though when your parents actually kept your daughter?
Yes. Yep.
When was that?
It was a few days time. It was early September, I believe, that they kept her while we moved.
And how long did they keep her?
If I remember correctly, it was a few days, and then we actually flew her and I flew to Michigan, finished out the weekend camping with my family, and then went back to Missouri,
Okay,
if I remember correctly. I don't know if we flew or drove, actually.
okay.
Not
So
sure.
this happened all between the same time frame of August to October when you first started working.
This happened roughly early September.
So yes, so the time that you're saying that you took care of your daughter all by yourself because you weren't working, this happened. You guys moved, your parents helped out. You guys both exited from Colorado and then you went to Missouri.
Can you say that question again? I'm sorry.
I said that happened during the time period where you said you took care of your daughter all on your own when you said the mid-August until October when you started working.
Yes.
Okay. And are you saying that those were the 3 weeks that Lindy had off work?
In that time period,
Right. You said that you guys stayed for about a week or so camping. Was
I-
that one of the 3 weeks you said she had off work?
no, I didn't say that we stayed for a week or so. I said that we finished out the week and the weekend. If I had to guess, it was probably 4. I think we spent 3 or 4 days in Ludington, Michigan. So it was not a week.
So you guys did not stay a week in Michigan? Is that what you're saying?
I don't believe so.
Okay. But I'm asking, is that one of the 3 weeks you said during the time of the 3 weeks you said she had off?
I did not say that she had any days off.
You absolutely said that she only had about 3 weeks off
I
during
didn't
that
say
time
that.
frame.
I didn't say that she had them off. No.
Okay. So earlier when I asked you if she had time off during that time period, you said 3 weeks.
I
Now
didn't
you're
say
saying
that
you
she-
didn't say that?
I didn't say that she had any time off. There was time allowed for us to move and for her to in process, but it was not time off. She still
Okay.
had to report.
But she wasn't working.
She was reporting and
Was she
in
working?
processing. Yes.
Okay, so she had to work. She was literally at work. Is that what you're saying? I guess
It
I'm a little
was a-
confused. If you can provide some clarification on what your definition is of working then at that point.
So she had to report and she had to go through in processing. So she was at wait hours varied depending on what they needed to get done.
So what would you average her work hours then?
I don't remember for sure. She was gone. Yeah, I don't know. Anything I would say would just be speculation. I shouldn't.
So you don't recall. So
Correct.
what were the 3 weeks off that you referred to earlier then?
I didn't refer to the 3 weeks off.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying that she didn't have any time off whatsoever.
Not time off. No, we had time to move and time for her to in process.
And then you said you went on a trip to Michigan.
Yes.
Was she
Yes.
working then too?
I don't remember if she was on a weekend pass. Or if she actually took leave for that. I don't remember. You'd have to contact her records keeper.
So does a weekend pass, is that not time off work?
A weekend passes a 4-day is what we called them. And no, they did not take time out of your accrued leave.
But it's still time off work, right? She wasn't working?
It is time that you do not have to report to work, correct?
Okay. All right. So there was a lot of time where she didn't have to report to work during that time period. Is that right?
During what time period?
The same time period we've been talking about.
From August to October?
Correct.
Okay. What was
Is
your
that
question again?
accurate?
I'm sorry. What was
There
your
was a
question
lot of
again?
time that she didn't have to report to work during that time.
Given the circumstances that we were in, we were both out processing. It's more beneficial for the soldier to focus on their out processing than it is for them to just come into work. So there were times, yes, that we didn't have to report,
So is that a yes or a no?
but we were still working.
So is that a yes?
Yes to
the question I just asked you.
What was that question again? I'm sorry.
Okay. So there were a lot of times Lindy did not have to report to work during that time period. Is that correct?
I guess be a little more clear on reporting to work. When you say
I'm going
report
off
to-
of your definition as you've explained it as reporting, right? You report in, either they tell you whether or not they need you. Isn't that what you said?
an official report in the military is, you render the hand salute. I guess just what are you looking for? I'm not
So
understanding.
you just testified that yes, there was a lot of time you both didn't have to go in, right? And now you're saying that you don't know what reporting means? I guess I'm a little confused by your answer.
I definitely know what reporting means.
Okay, so I'm asking you, during that time period, isn't it true that there was a lot of time Lindy did not have to go into work? She reported and she didn't have to go in.
During the time from August to October,
Indeed.
there was, I would say that it was, no, she did a lot of reporting and going into work actually during her in processing. All that stuff was in person for the most part. The out processing from Colorado was more relaxed.
And when was that?
The out processing from Colorado?
Yeah.
It was in August, I believe.
Okay, and how long did that take?
For her and for me, it was a little different. Because I was getting out, I had to turn everything in. That took me a couple weeks. I think she out processed in roughly a week.
Okay. And how much time were you guys given between out processing and moving?
We did it all in a weekend. And I think
How much time did the Army give her between out processing and moving?
I don't remember. You'd have to
Okay.
check her leave form.
Okay. All right. Your Honor, can we take a brief 5-minute break?
Okay, we'll take a brief recess and then we'll reconvene in about 5 minutes.
I would like to go back to the time when you said Lindy never mentioned to you. And Your Honor, I do have a rebuttal exhibit that I would like to share. That's possible.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you recognize this as a text message between you and Lindy?
We can't read that.
It's too blurry.
Can you enlarge it?
What about now?
Nope.
That's
It looks like if I try to make it blur, if I try to make it bigger, it blurs.
For our purposes, was that included with your exhibits, or was that a supplemental, or what?
No, Your Honor, this is a rebuttal exhibit,
Okay.
so it's not included.
Okay, I'm asking you where it is. I know what it is. You said it's a rebuttal. Did it come with your original exhibits, or was that a supplemental?
No, it has not been shared previously, Your Honor.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to see if I had it or not.
Okay. Okay, do you see this exhibit? You
I
the
can see it,
text
yes.
message? Okay,
Yes.
and can you read this?
Do I have to?
Yes. Can you please read this for the court?
Do you need the context?
No,
or
I'm just asking you to read the message, sir.
Read what message?
The text message on the screen,
There are a few of them.
the entire page,
The entire page.
correct?
I'll start out with the blue at the top then. Is
Yes.
that what you like?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm not saying that that's all that I felt. No, but it's a majority. We had sex every day, and even when I said no, you would touch me up and tease me. And when I wasn't wet or getting your reaction, you were like, "It's okay, I'll get it there." So, F it, I got hurt a lot, Gavin. I bled more with you than I did losing my virginity. I'm so sorry. I should have known when to stop. It's fine. It's not fine. That's a piece of shit thing to do. And I would have taken the hint. And if I would have taken the hint, things might be different, and it kills me inside to think about that.
Okay. So isn't this a text message between you and Lindy
I do not remember this conversation.
about your sexual relationship?
I do not remember this conversation.
So are you saying that you didn't send that text message?
I'm saying that I don't remember this conversation.
Okay. So you're not saying you didn't text this, you're just saying you don't remember doing so?
I'm saying that I don't remember this conversation, so this may or may not be me. I don't know.
Okay. And you don't recall ever talking about you pressuring her or forcing her to have sex
No, I never
because
did
you
that.
don't recall that conversation.
Correct, I do not recall that conversation.
Okay.
But what was your previous question? I'm sorry.
I think you've already answered it.
Can you repeat it to me again, please?
You don't recall the conversation, but you're not saying you didn't text this.
I did not ever pressure her to have sex.
That's not what I asked you.
I don't
I asked you
recall.
about whether or not you said that you didn't recall it, but I said, does that mean you didn't recall the conversation, but you still could have texted this, right? You're not saying you didn't text that to her, is what I said.
I do not recall that conversation.
That's not what I asked you. Okay, we're moving on. Okay, you said earlier, testified that you two separated December of last year or December of 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, you were working in Missouri. Is that right?
Correct.
So why did you move back to Michigan instead of continuing to work and live in Missouri and be close to Lindy and Mara?
I did not make enough money.
How much were you making?
I was bringing home roughly $400 a week, if I recall correctly.
So you mentioned that you and Lindy had an agreement regarding parenting time about when you left. But isn't it true that Lindy had already made childcare arrangements and that you begged her to be able to take Mara with you when you left to Michigan?
What childcare arrangements?
Daycare, right?
I'm sorry. You're saying that she had made childcare arrangements for after I left so that she would keep the child?
No, before you left, you begged her to take Mara, even though she'd already made childcare arrangements. Isn't that correct?
The childcare arrangements for enrollment in daycare had been made for quite some time. It wasn't just before I left.
Okay. But she told you specifically, you guys had a conversation, right? That she already had arrangements and you did not have to take Mara to Michigan. Is that right?
No,
It's not correct?
If that were correct, I think that I would have, if we had agreed on me leaving our child in Missouri, that probably is what would have happened.
Okay. I would like to show you Exhibit 1. Can you read?
Ms. Gillum, just for clarification, is this plaintiff's exhibit 1?
No, Your Honor, this is defendant's Exhibit 1.
Okay, well, you said exhibit 1, so please clarify so that I get my notes correctly.
I apologize. Can you read the top of the screen? Mr. Lindsay?
Oh, you would like me to read it aloud?
Yes.
Okay. Starting at the top in the highlighted portion?
Starting at the top.
Okay.
You can start with the date.
The date 12/25/21. It says, hey, you no longer have to take her with you. Coworkers are up to date with the situation and are willing to help as far as scheduling. So I'll be home to take care of her fine. 12/25/21. I'd still like to take her to Michigan. 12/25/21. You no longer have to. 12/25/21. I'd like to if it's possible. My parents are really looking forward to it. 12/25/21. Your parents are gonna have their time to spend with her. 12/25/21. When's that gonna be? 12/25/21. IDK, you said that's why you are getting a lawyer, right? They were just here for Thanksgiving, Gavin. 1225, or correct, 122521. Not to mention they are going to be here for when you pack and go. 122521. I'm getting a lawyer because I know you're going to do stuff like this.
You can continue.
122521. Like what? Tell me I can take her, then change your mind. 122521. They were just here and I was willing to let her, but things worked out fine, Gavin. 122521. Yes, because I had to work things out, which I did. 122521. Yeah, if you were willing to let her, why can't you still be? Take some time for yourself. You're gonna need some free time to pack. 122521. Time for myself. Gavin, I'm going to be stressing the F out because something in me is telling me not to do this. 122521. Not to do what? Also the same day, I feel like you are gonna be slimmy with all this. Like you aren't gonna be willing to bring her back to me. You need to stop, FR. I can't. I'm scared of you. Yeah, like I'm the bad guy here. You literally just kicked me out of our house. It's not our house and it worked out fine, right? You got your support. On a split-second decision because you threw a little temper tantrum. Do I have to read all of this?
Please.
Waiting for you to give me my place and respect me is not a temper tantrum. And no, it doesn't work out fine. I still am going to have a ridiculously large amount of unnecessary bills and stresses that I don't need, all because you're impulsive and have a bad temper. Gavin, you think that because I don't want to be with you anymore, I'm just going to up and forget that you are the father of my child, not to mention that Maura loves you. So no, I'm not the bad guy here because I have my priorities straight. Not to mention IDK when I'm going to see my daughter after I leave. Gavin, that is part of adulthood. I'm going to have stress and bills too. You will see her, OMG. Self-inflicted stress and bills. You are being extremely dramatic when we literally haven't even sat down to discuss anything. You are assuming the worst, and that's on you. Maybe, but at least I don't have to be in a relationship that doesn't make me happy. Stress and bills will always be there. I'm assuming the worst. You literally said you want me out in less than a month. Of course, I'm going to assume the worst. Yes, that's only because I don't want you near me. Nothing to do with Maura, Gavin. Out of good faith, I'm going to let you take her, but only for a week. Meet me in the middle. I don't want her gone for a long time, and you want your parents to spend time with her. A week is good enough. So you're going to want me to bring her to Colorado after the week. IDK, it depends on where I'll be. Could still be here, or it could be in Colorado. And I can get her is fine. Okie dokie.
Okay, you can
See.
stop. So these are the text messages of the conversation that you had before you moved back to Michigan. Is that right?
These are the text messages on December 25th of 2021.
Between
Yes.
you and Lindy?
I believe so.
Right. Okay, we would move to enter Defendant's Exhibit 1, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Reed, any response?
I'm going to object, Your Honor, because Defendant's Exhibit 1 is 190 pages, and this is maybe a paragraph or maybe a page out of that 190-page exhibit, and I don't believe proper foundation has been laid for that entire exhibit.
Okay. Ms. Gillum, your response?
Your Honor, we provided all of the text messages between the parties because all of the just in case there was an issue regarding context. We didn't want these text messages to be taken out of context. Therefore, we're asking that they be entered as a whole so we can refer back to them and look at the context if necessary in Mr. Lindsay's and Ms. Arzola Velez's testimony.
Okay, so you're seeking to introduce all the 90 some pages?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, the plaintiff has identified them as text between the parties, so the court does believe that there's authentication in this matter. The court will admit the exhibits over the objection, and to state, Ms. Reed, if you wish to put those in context, you have a right to then bring up any of those additional pages to do so.
Okay.
So at that point, you were only supposed to be taking her for a short period of time. Is that correct? That was your conversation with Miss Arzola Perez, correct?
So there was about 3 weeks time between that conversation and me actually leaving.
Okay. I said at that point in time, that was your agreement. Is that correct?
On 12/25.
Correct.
I can't remember specifically, but according to the text messages, that does appear as if that was.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that there is a custody and parenting time order from Colorado, correct?
Correct. There.
And the custody order says that Moira is to reside with her mom. Isn't that correct?
It says that Maura is to reside with her mom for 4 days out of the week, and for me with 3 days out. With
No,
me
that's
for 3 days out of the week.
okay. All right. So I'd like to show you defendants exhibit 19. That's okay, Your Honor. Do you
Yeah.
recognize this order?
I do.
Okay. I'd like to direct your attention down to B. Can you read that for the court?
Primary residential responsibility. Mother shall have primary residential responsibility for the child. The child shall reside primarily with mother.
So the order states that she's supposed to be residing primarily with mom.
Due
Correct.
to. Correct. That is what the order says.
Okay. So why did you violate that order by keeping your daughter in Michigan and not allowing her to primarily reside with her mother?
Her mother was working very long hours. Even before I left, there were often times that she wouldn't get home till, we'd be in bed by the time that she got home. It was just not feasible for Lindy to be able to take care of her. It wasn't possible.
So that's why you violated the order?
It was a mutual agreement.
So you're saying that she mutually agreed to allow you to keep your daughter from her for 6 months?
I did not keep our daughter from her for 6 months.
So you kept your daughter from her from May, is what you testified earlier, right? And she didn't have any parenting time with her until the next order was entered, right? Because you said you didn't want her to have parenting time with them without a different order modifying the order. Isn't that right?
I did
that
not say
order-
that.
That is what you testified to previously.
I testified to, I said that I didn't want my daughter to leave the state. That does not mean that she cannot come here and see her.
You testified previously that you didn't want her to have any parenting time until an order was entered.
That's not what I said.
Okay. Okay. So did you at any time say, hey, Lindy, you can come here to Michigan and visit?
I believe I did say so in the call, yes.
In a call?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And so you were going to allow her to come to Michigan and pick up her daughter?
No, not to pick her up, no.
So then she could only have parenting time, what, supervised by you?
Yes.
Okay. Is
I
that what that
didn't-
Colorado order says, that she can only have supervised parenting time?
No, it's not what it says.
Okay. So you violated the Colorado order by not allowing her to have parenting time and not allowing your daughter to reside with her. Isn't that right?
So the Colorado order wasn't, it wasn't registered in the state of Missouri at this time. So I don't think that I violated anything.
So you're saying that because the order wasn't registered in a different state, that it's not, you don't have to follow it? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I think that you're trying to trip me up a little bit.
No, I'm asking
and
you a
kind of
question.
something. What was your question again? I'm sorry.
So you violated the custody and the parenting time order by not allowing her to have any unsupervised parenting time and not allowing your child to reside primarily with her, correct? It's a yes or no question, sir.
Thank you. She,
What did you say thank you for?
for clarifying whether that was a yes or no question.
Okay.
She didn't pick her up from Michigan.
That's not what I asked you. It's a yes or no question. Please answer yes or no.
So you're asking me if I violated the order out of El Paso County.
Correct.
I think that we're both in violation then.
That's not what I asked you. It's a yes or no question.
No,
Judge, can you have him and can you instruct him to answer the question?
He just did, Your Honor. He said no.
I'll take that as an answer. I mean, he's trying to clarify and he's allowed to do so.
So no, you didn't violate the order. Is that what you said?
that's what I said.
Okay, so then you followed that order?
It was not feasible to follow that order.
So that's a no. You did not follow the order. Is that correct?
We didn't follow the order.
And I, meaning you, are included in that we. Is that right?
I am included in that we, yes.
Okay, so that's a yes. So did you really think it was in your daughter's best interest to not see her mother for 6 months?
No, that is not at all how I wanted that to go.
Okay. So you and Lindy had a very specific agreement regarding parenting time. She allowed you to take Maura to Michigan based upon that very specific agreement. Is that correct?
The agreement you're referring to are the text messages on December 25th, 2021.
I'm talking about the agreement that you guys had regarding parenting time.
The
Period.
court agreement or
The agreement.
what agreement?
The
are
agreement you
referring
referred to in your testimony. Didn't you say earlier you guys had an agreement regarding parenting time?
There was an understood.
That's the agreement I'm referring to.
Okay, so that doesn't mesh with the text messages that you.
That's not what I
submitted.
asked you, sir. I'm the one asking the questions here.
Okay,
Do you not understand the question?
not really.
Okay, so the question is, you two had a very specific agreement, and that is why she allowed you to take your daughter to Michigan. Is that right?
I guess I don't understand what agreement you're referring to. Are you referring to the text messages that you just put up on the screen?
I've already indicated that I'm referring to the agreement that you were testifying about on direct
10 and 2?
examination.
The 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off?
That's the agreement according to you.
Yes, that was
Okay.
roughly the agreement, yes.
And so, is that a yes?
A yes on,
This is the question I've already asked you 3 times.
what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay. Lindy allowed you to take Maura to Michigan, right? Based upon your very specific agreement regarding parenting time.
Based on necessity. It was based on necessity because it was not feasible for her to take care of our daughter while she was on a training cycle.
It's a yes or no question, sir.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
I'll repeat it one more time for clarification purposes, but I think that should be sufficient. Lindy allowed you to take Maura to Michigan based upon your very specific parenting time schedule agreement. Isn't that right?
It wasn't very specific, but she did allow me to take our daughter to Michigan, yes. I took our daughter to Michigan.
Based upon that agreement, correct?
That she would have her during her rest cycles and I would have her during her training cycles.
Okay. Thanks. When you left, you said earlier it was in January that you moved back to Michigan and you took Maura.
Mhm.
Were you planning at that time to keep her and file a case in Michigan?
I was still, obviously I had a lot invested into the relationship. I wanted to wait, and make a good decision, with a clear conscience. And I think that, the amount of time that I waited, it was sufficient for me to have an understanding and not make a decision out of spite or out of anger.
So what exactly were you waiting for?
I was waiting, for me to be in a good mindset. I didn't want to make a decision, like I said, based out of anger or spite.
So, but this is something that you were contemplating at that time about whether or not you should file a case in Michigan?
The thought had crossed my mind.
Had you talked to an attorney at that time?
No,
Okay. So you convinced her to take her to Michigan, knowing that you were potentially going to be filing a case to keep custody of Mara in Michigan.
I did not convince her. No.
You didn't convince her? Well,
No.
according to those text messages, you persuaded her to let you take her, even though she said she already had made arrangements, correct?
Those text messages were dated 12/25, weren't they?
That is correct.
So that is actually the day that she told me that I needed to leave. There was about 3 weeks time in between then and when I actually left. During that 3 weeks, we were still living together.
Were you together or were you separated?
We were separated.
Okay. You mentioned that you had brought Mara down to visit her mom after she had her for about 3 weeks or so, is what you testified to earlier in March. You brought her back down in April and in May. Is that correct?
I did.
Okay. Let me ask you this. During the time that you left in January through May, were you trying to get back together with Lindy?
I was trying to make things work, yes, for our daughter's sake.
Okay. And is that why you decided you were going to hold off on trying to file something in Michigan?
No,
Did you at any time tell Lindy that you were contemplating keeping your daughter in Michigan and filing something during that time?
I do not remember.
Okay. So Lindy has, you said earlier, she's off cycle for several weeks. So was she off cycle when she had your daughter in March?
Yes, it was supposed to be for 2 weeks. Ended up being for 3. I guess their rest cycle was extended by a week.
Okay. And then you said something about she was going to have 3 months off in May for a non-conduct?
I think it may have been in June that she was starting in June that she was supposed to have 3 months. I'm not for sure.
Okay. And your agreement at that time was that Lindy was supposed to be picking Mara up, right, at the end of May before her
No.
non-conduct?
No, I did not agree to that. That is why we're here.
But you did originally agree to that, isn't that right?
No,
So you're telling me at no point in time did you say, well, you just testified earlier that she was supposed to have her when she wasn't working and you were supposed to have her while she was working,
under the
right? That was your
understanding,
agreement?
under the understanding that the rest cycles would be roughly 2 weeks to 4, but not 3 months.
Okay. But didn't you guys have an agreement though? She was supposed to be driving Mara down to visit you in Michigan during those other times, correct? Wasn't that your agreement?
I don't recall an agreement of about that.
Okay, I would like to show you Plaintiff's Exhibit 1. Can you read the highlighted portion, please?
Starting on 4/20/22.
Yes.
My baby, I'll call in a second. I'm on staff duty tonight. Can you just call tomorrow, please? Why? I'm pretty upset and I don't
And Mr. Lindsay, can you say who's speaking when you're reading this?
Okay. Would you like me to start over?
Please.
So on 4/20/22, Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, my baby, I'll call in a second. I'm on staff duty tonight. Gavin Lindsay, can you just call tomorrow, please? Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, why? Gavin Lindsay, I'm pretty upset. And Gavin Lindsay, and I don't really want to see or talk to you right now. Gavin Lindsay, actually from now on, I'd like for you to communicate with my parents when you'd like to see Maura. If anything changes, I'll let you know. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, why are you upset? Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, I should be able to see her every day. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, regardless of your feelings, Gavin Lindsay, I've got a lot of stuff going on and I really need to focus on what and where the Lord is leading me. Gavin Lindsay, yes, I agree. That's why I'm asking that you talk to my parents. Gavin Lindsay, they'll make it happen.
Continue.
Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, Has nothing to do with me being able to see Mora, and you as the father should be taking charge of that. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, just like I would for you. Gavin Lindsay, yeah, that's me taking charge. Talk to my parents when you want to see her. Gavin Lindsay, they'll make it happen. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, okay, sounds easier. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, I'll text your mom now. Gavin Lindsay, today's gonna be a busy day. Not sure if we're gonna be able to FaceTime today or not, but we'll be in touch. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, I'll reach out to your parents. Gavin Lindsay, they're gonna tell you the same exact thing. LOL, we're all busy today. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, that's fine, but I'll coordinate with them. You said that's what needed to be done and you don't know. Maybe they can do it and you can't. Gavin Lindsay, okay, sounds good. Just thought I'd give you a fair warning. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, thumbs up emoji. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, hey, so I'll be able to pick Mora up on the 28th of May. Gavin Lindsay, when is she coming back here? Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, IDK, I'll let you know when we are about to pick up. It won't be longer than the time you've had her. Gavin Lindsay, okay, so will you be making monthly trips to Michigan so I can see her? Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, that was the deal, right? Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, so yes, because I uphold my end of my deal with you every time when it comes to Mora. Gavin Lindsay, that's what I committed to. I wasn't sure if you had the same plan. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, I like to be fair, Gavin. Lindy Lee Arzola Velez, so yes. Gavin Lindsay, thumbs up emoji.
So then that was your conversation with her, right? About her picking up her daughter on May 28th, her keeping her, and then bringing her to visit you monthly in Michigan, right? That was your agreement.
Do we have those 6 messages?
What pages was that, Ms. Gillum? On exhibit 1?
167 and 168. Is that correct, sir?
Just a moment, please.
What are you waiting for?
I'm going to look at the.
He wants to review the text messages a little bit.
I just showed them to him. Hello?
I am here.
We've just reviewed them together on screen. That was your agreement with Lindy, correct?
Can I just have a second to read over these, please? I don't see anything in here about her having her for 3 months.
But you knew that was the time that she was going to be off. You just testified to that, right? And you knew that was the plan, or else she wouldn't have been driving her down to Michigan to see you every month, right? As stated in that conversation.
It does say that she will be making monthly trips to Michigan, yes.
So then you knew she would be having Mora those months. Isn't that right?
That is assumed.
Oh, is it yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So then she allowed you to take care of Mara the entire time she was working because that's what you two agreed to. She stuck to her end of the agreement. And then when it was time for her to have Mara for an extended period of time, you decided, nope, you can't have her. I'm going to file in Michigan. Is that what happened?
I was not receiving any support whatsoever. And
what does support have to do with that, sir?
it was
are you talking about child support?
It was hard.
Are you talking about child support?
Is
that what you mean by support?
Financial and all the support that I should have been receiving.
What does that have to do with Lindy being able to see her daughter when she was off work?
It wasn't fair.
So it was fair for you to have her when she was working, but not fair for her to have her when she wasn't working?
It was not fair for me to be expected to take care of our daughter solo.
Did you pay for child support?
When
you guys were together?
Yes, I paid daycare.
So you paid daycare, not child support. But that daycare was used for both you and Lindy, right?
If you look in the order states that I am to pay the daycare directly.
Okay. And you testified you guys were living together, you were working and Lindy was working. And so you guys were both using daycare. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I didn't she pay for you to come back and forth to Missouri?
I believe she helped out once.
So she paid for your gas. She put you up in a hotel, right?
That-
On your trips back and forth to Missouri.
I do remember that. That was it was I said so it was an agreement that we came to. If I wasn't allowed to stay in the house, I asked that she pay for the hotel room.
Right. So she paid for those and she continued paying for childcare in Missouri. Isn't that right?
I don't know whether she did or not.
Isn't that what she told you?
I believe that she did.
Right. Okay. So
I
she
don't
was still
have-
paying for childcare, even though you were ordered to pay for childcare. She was paying for it. And you're saying that she didn't support you?
I was also paying $900 per month for childcare here in Michigan.
Okay.
I was stretched pretty thin.
So then I guess my question is, why did you think that it was better for your daughter to be with you while you were working in daycare as opposed to being with Lindy while she was working in daycare?
Because the
What's the
daycare,
difference?
the daycare on post has very strict hours. I can't talk to, as to what their hours are now. But when we were in Missouri, the daycare was I don't remember when for sure that they opened, but she was dropped off roughly, if I remember correctly, I had to be to work at 8. So she was dropped off at daycare at 7:30 and she had to be picked up no later than 5:30. And I got off at 5. And Lindy never got off before. I don't ever remember seeing her before like 9 o'clock.
Isn't it true that there were many times when you weren't able to pick up Maura and you texted Lindy and said, I can't pick up our daughter today. Can you go pick her up?
I wouldn't say many times.
Well, it was more than once, wasn't it?
Does more than once count as many?
You tell me.
I would say a couple.
Okay. So a couple of times, that's better for you. Is that right?
Not many,
Okay.
but a couple, yes.
Okay. All right. And isn't it true that the Army has a family care plan?
They do
Yeah.
have a family care plan.
And so if you are taking care of your child alone, they will allow you to leave and pick up your daughter and take care of her when you don't have childcare. Is that correct?
That's all command dependent.
Isn't that what the family care plan is?
The family care plan, my understanding is that it's for more of like emergency situations, like say if something were to happen to her while she's at work. Say, they were spun up for a deployment last minute. That's my understanding of what a family care plan is more geared for.
Okay. So that's your understanding then.
I did have a family care plan at one point while I was in. You're required to if you have a child.
Right. And that's when you and Lindy were living together. Is that correct?
Correct.
So you weren't single parents per se, right?
We were not.
All right. Would you agree that they have a different care plan for single parents than they do for parents that work together?
From my understanding is the Army actually doesn't allow single parents to be in. I've witnessed actually a few chapters. They would discharge people for being single parents.
Okay. That's your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. And they do that for every MOS?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think that it's really command dependent also.
So as we were talking about earlier, Lindy has sometimes several months off at a time. Is that correct? And she has weeks in between her cycles, right?
I wouldn't say it's time off. She's still expected to go into work. Just the hours are more relaxed.
The hours are more relaxed. So on a non-conductor saying she still has to go into work.
Excuse me.
On a non-conduct, she has to go into work.
On a non-conduct?
Yeah.
On are you referring to a rest cycle? What I call is a rest cycle.
I'm referring to a non-conduct, not the rest cycles, between cycles.
Okay. Non-conduct.
Do you know what a non-conduct is? I
understand what you're talking about now, yes.
Okay.
So that non-conduct, the particular one that you're referring to, are you referring to the period of time right during, like in the beginning of May or at the end of May, beginning of June?
Is that one of Lindy's non-conducts?
Is that the time you're referring to? I'm not sure.
I'm asking you a question. Is that one of Lindy's non-conducts?
You would have to check with her command and see
So are
the
you saying
schedule.
you don't know?
I don't know if it was a non-conduct or just a
Okay.
rest cycle.
So what was your understanding of that time period then in May when she was supposed to have 3 months off?
So I know that they were under investigation for a unusually large amount of suicides within the I don't know if it was brigade or company, battalion, I'm not sure. But they had an unusually large amount of suicides and they were under investigation for that.
So that was your understanding as why she would be off for 3 months?
That was my understanding.
Okay. And so what's your understanding of a non-conduct?
Non-conduct is just a period of time where they're not conducting training.
Okay. And so as a drill sergeant that Lindy was, there would be times when she was on a non-conduct, is that right?
I assume so, yes.
Okay. And then that would mean that she would be off work for sometimes months at a time. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say off work.
What would you
I'm
call
sure,
it?
because the Army never just gives you free time off. I would assume that she's reporting still and still has a job to do, just maybe not a very demanding job.
I noticed that you're saying assuming. So does that mean you really don't know?
I've never been a drill sergeant.
So does that mean yes, you don't really know?
I know what I've been told,
Okay. So you only know what you've been told. Is that right?
and I know what I've understood during our time together.
Did Lindy have a non-conduct when you guys were together?
I don't remember for sure.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you're speculating. Is that correct?
No.
No?
Hmm.
So you know for sure?
No, for sure what?
That's what it is.
That's what is.
Well, you just testified previously that you're not a drill sergeant, so you weren't for sure.
I was never a drill sergeant. No.
Right. So you're not really sure. You're gathering what a non-conduct is from what people have told you. Is that right?
I was in a
I'm going to object, Your Honor. My client's asked and answered this question. He testified that he's basing his knowledge off of what he experienced during the party's relationship and what he has learned from the defendant herself, what her schedule is.
Yeah, I'll overrule the objection because he hasn't been very clear about what this is. So unless he can be clear, I'll allow her to go into additional questioning.
You can answer the question, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Isn't it true that you're basing your understanding of a non-conduct upon what other people are telling you?
No.
But you just testified previously that you're not a drill sergeant and you're not sure if Lindy actually had a non-conduct. So what experience do you have with non-conducts?
I was in a relationship with a drill sergeant for a short amount of time. That's the
How long
knowledge
was she
that
a
I-
drill sergeant when you guys were together?
She was a drill sergeant from September to when I left. Well, I think she's still a drill sergeant now.
When you were together?
When we were together from September to when I left in January.
Okay. And did she have any non-conducts at that time?
I don't recall.
Right. So you have no personal knowledge of what a non-conduct or what occurs during a non-conduct for a drill sergeant. Is that right?
I do know that their schedule is more relaxed.
Okay. That's what you know?
Yes.
Okay. So do you know what her schedule was supposed to be then in May? When she was, you said, going to have that period of time off for 3 months?
Do I know what her schedule was every day?
What was it supposed to be?
You'd have to get in contact with her command and get the training calendar.
I'm asking if you know what her schedule was supposed to be at that
I
time.
can't tell you specific times.
Does that mean no, you don't know?
I can't tell you specific times. You'd have to get in contact with her command.
So is that a yes or no, sir?
That I know what her training schedule was.
Right, on that 3 months that she was supposed to be off.
I had, on the 3 months that she was supposed to be off, I don't know what her training schedule was. You'd have to
Okay.
get in contact with her command.
Thank you. And back to what I was saying again, you work full-time, correct? You testified that you work 40 plus hours a week?
I work 40 to 45, yes.
Okay, sometimes more than that too, right?
Rarely.
But sometimes?
The weeks that I work over 45, I usually won't clock out for lunch, and I will do training online.
Okay, so you do have overtime, right?
I do.
All right. Who drops your daughter off to daycare in the morning?
I do.
All right. What time do you do that?
Around 7:30.
All right. And what time do you usually pick her up? Or do you pick her up?
I do pick her up. I typically pick her up around 5:30.
How far is your job from the daycare center?
My job from the daycare center is, I would say, roughly 20 minutes, roughly 20 to 25.
Okay. So on the days that you work later, you pick her up later, or do you have someone else pick her up for you?
No, I pick her up.
Okay. And she also in daycare on those weekends that you have to work?
No,
So who cares for her on those weekends?
I will reach out to a family member sometime during the week before I work on a Saturday and ask them.
Okay. So you testified previously that Lindy's schedule was supposed to be more relaxed during the time that she was going to be off around May for those 3 months. So why was it a problem for Lindy to be with, or for Mara to be with Lindy at that time?
That was when I had made up my mind about pursuing this case.
What does that have to do with her, Mara seeing her mom?
I did not feel comfortable with my daughter leaving the state until there was an order in place.
And why was that? There was already an order in place, right? You've already testified to that. Why was it a problem for your daughter to go back to Missouri at that time?
I guess I don't understand the relevance of the order that had been put in place. Wasn't feasible.
I'm not asking about what you understand about the order. I'm asking about why did you not want to have an order? Why did you not want her to leave the state and go with her mom before you got a different order?
Because I was scared that she would take her and I wouldn't see her for a really long time.
But you had an agreement, right? Regarding parenting time at that time, correct? That you testified to previously.
An agreement that I would keep her for 10 weeks and she would have her for 2.
The agreement was that you would watch her while she was working and she would have her while she was off, right?
That was yes.
Yeah. So that was your agreement. Did she not let you watch her while she was working in January, February, March?
She didn't let me. It was in the I had to. There was no way that she was able to do that while she was working.
Well, those text messages we're talking about previously indicated she had already made arrangements, right?
Which text messages?
Lindsay, we're gonna go back a little bit from when you testified that you had not been able to see Mara when she was first born, okay?
Okay.
And you did not know where the defendant was, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you said you had attempted to make contact with her, is that correct?
After I found out that my daughter was born, yes.
What attempts did you make?
I texted her and told her that I would like to be in my child's life.
Okay, and did you know where she was located at that time?
I did not.
Did you have an address?
I did not.
Did you have any way of sending support to her?
No.
Did you take any steps to find her?
I did, yes. I hired a private investigator to
Okay,
find her.
and was that successful?
It was.
Okay. And then what time did you guys get back together?
It was the later part of 2020. I believe it was in December,
Okay,
sometime in there.
and then moving forward a little bit to where you were transitioning out of the Army, and then the defendant was transitioning to Missouri. You had testified about a 3-week period for processing. Do you recall when that 3-week period was?
It would have been the later part of August, possibly the early part of September.
And is that 3 weeks for you or 3 weeks for the defendant to process?
That was roughly the time it took for her to in process, if I remember correctly.
Okay, and then just to clarify your previous testimony, was she actively reporting or having to be out of the home at that time?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, she was.
and you were not working yet?
I was not.
Okay. And then in December, you had a conversation with the defendant regarding you moving to Michigan, is that right?
Yes,
And then she had changed that agreement, said, no, I have childcare, I can keep her here. That is correct?
according to the text messages, yes.
Okay, and then that agreement changed again?
Mhm.
Okay, when did that agreement change again?
Sometime in between December 25th and January 14th.
Okay, and then what was that agreement?
That I would have her during her duty cycles and that she would have her on her rest cycles, roughly 10 weeks with me, 2 weeks with her.
Did you specifically like look at a calendar and mark off when that would be?
I did not mark off on a calendar, no, because we hadn't discussed her work schedule that far out.
Okay, and during your relationship, was there ever a time where she had a large period of off cycle?
No.
What was the average length of time for an off cycle?
I believe we had one while we were living together. She had one and it was roughly 2 weeks, if I remember
Okay,
correctly.
and is that the basis for your 10-week, 2-week agreements? Okay. Was it ever contemplated that she was gonna have a large period of months off?
No,
Okay. So when May, June came and she told you about a large period of time that she was gonna be having off, did you agree to keep the standard schedule that you had been doing of 10 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or was it something different that you were agreeing to?
I don't remember agreeing to anything. I don't see myself agreeing to allowing her to be gone for 3 months. I don't think that there was any formal or in text message agreement. I could be wrong, but I don't think that there was an agreement.
So with the text messages that you read over prior to us going on break,
Mhm.
where the defendant's saying that she's gonna be bringing Mara up to you during the months, that was something she was proposing?
Yes, more or less, yes.
And is that something you agreed to at all?
Where are the text messages?
It would have been that she was going to, that she was keeping up her end of the bargain and you need to keep up your end, and that she was gonna be bringing her up, but was there any like dates that she was gonna be doing that?
No.
Or was there any sort of solidified, yes, I agree to this?
No,
Okay. And when you brought this custody case in Michigan, was it to keep Mara from her mom?
no, absolutely not.
Was it to punish the defendant in any way?
No,
Was it because she got a new boyfriend?
no.
Why specifically on this time frame, right, when all these big changes are happening, did you want the custody order modified?
Because I didn't think it was fair that I was having her for so long and wasn't receiving any support. That's not, it just wasn't fair.
Okay, and did you want a modification of the Colorado order?
I believe that's why, right, that's why we had to register it.
And did you want consistency for Mara?
Absolutely, I want consistency.
Did you want your parenting time solidified in an order so everyone was on the same page?
Correct.
Okay. And if you were trying to enforce the Colorado order, would that be practical for both of you?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so if the defendant were to have primary physical custody and you were up in Michigan, how would you have your parenting time pursuant to the Colorado order?
I would have to drive down, or, I mean, yeah, I would have to drive down to Missouri twice a week
Okay.
and
And,
bring the child back with me to Michigan.
okay, and it's not possible that you would have been able to stay down there every week?
No, no.
Okay. Do you know approximately how long you were going contrary to the Colorado order?
Since we moved in together,
And that was roughly about the same time that order was entered?
roughly, yes.
Okay,
We didn't go against it on everything, though. I still paid child support directly to the daycare the whole time.
okay. And then when you said you're planning on moving in 2 years to a place approximately 300 yards from your parents' current home, does your parents own that property?
My dad just purchased it, yes.
Okay, so you're gonna purchase it from your dad?
Correct.
Okay. Is that something you talked to him about?
Yes, we are, I'm in the process of getting the loan.
Okay. For the months of June until the temporary order that was entered in October, November, did you reach out to the defendant for parenting time or any sort of communication?
The last text message that I sent to her was, pretty much saying that you can call whenever you want.
And,
Other than that, I didn't reach out except for a couple pictures.
okay, and during that same period, did she ever reach out to you?
No.
Do you know if she ever reached out to any of your family members?
I don't believe so.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Any recross, Ms. Gillum?
Briefly, you just testified that you had no way of contacting Lindy when your child was first born. I would like to. Can I do some screen sharing, Your Honor,
Yeah.
or some
Yep.
rebuttal exhibits? Can you read this text message to the court?
4 months before the child was born. It says, I know that you don't want me in the child's life, so I'm willing to make you a deal. I would be willing to give up custody and not sign the birth certificate in exchange. I need you to sign something stating that you don't want anything from me and won't ever. That's perfectly fine. I can't have you do it because I want to. You not being in her life is not my fault. So if that's what you want, that's okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to JAG right now to see if they can write something up. So it is what you want. I need you to have that question answered because I'm not going to be held liable for.